Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We are getting into some news. We're talking about LeBron James and trash talk, how he feels about it. There's some rumors going around about Devin Booker and some early predictions for next season. I think it's going to be too early. They're way too early of predictions. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Here is the Fumble Squad. We are down one member. Chris is out, but you've got the ladies today. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Jackie.
Oh, see, that sounds so weird, but I get to hear my name first instead of Chris. You can follow me. It's your girl, Jackie Ray. You can follow me everywhere at JRay the Fanatic.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Britt Johnson. You can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson. And even though it's Ladies' Day, I will not forget what's the most important part. Jackie, what day is it? It's Taco
Tuesday. Lakers.
I feel like I should have.
I'm blurry now that
Huh?
I should have joined in just so I wasn't the odd one out. Let's do it again.
You should have joined in because it's also Laker Tuesday.
It is Laker Tuesday. You are absolutely right. I should. Okay, so I'll just do it real quick myself. It's Taco Tuesday.
Okay, we'll work on it. We'll work on it.
So I always love it when we are hosting just the three ladies. It's so much fun, but we don't have anybody to make fun of or joke about because Chris is usually the scapegoat for all of our sass and humor, so we don't have him today. But that's okay. I think it'll still be fun. Yeah, we miss you, Chris.
We need to get a little Chris like Jackie has her little LeBron. We need a little Chris that like whenever we just need to let out some aggression, we can just use the little Chris if he's not here.
We would all need one and just be like shake him vigorously like, Chris, damn it.
Oh my gosh, I know. I wish we did have little crystals that we could unleash some aggression on, but I guess we'll just have each other.
His ears are burning wherever he is.
Right.
His ears like, are they talking about me?
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, let's jump in with the first news story. This is about LeBron James and Jimmy Butler. So there was that moment in the last Lakers versus Heat game where it looked like Jimmy and LeBron were trash talking. Jimmy claimed that his trash talk towards LeBron was retaliation, but LeBron disagreed and said that he's always been the kind of guy to let his game do all the talking. LeBron opened up about how he feels about bad-mouthing his opponents, and he said, quote, "For me personally, as long as it doesn't get disrespectful, I'm fine with it. But I've never really started up a trash-talking dialogue. That's just not me. I believe the way I play the game is enough trash-talking in itself." Of course, there was that moment that we talked about, I think it was yesterday, where Jimmy mouthed that his team, that the Lakers were in trouble as he hit a layup that gave the Heat a 9-point lead. But he said that he was just dishing back what James had said during a conversation at the end of the first quarter. So we've talked a lot about trash talking here on the panel, and I think we all agree that it can make things more fun and more exciting. So Jackie, I want to go to you and just confirm that you still feel the same way. Does trash talk keep the game fun, or does it create bad energy?
I mean, as long as it's not taken too far, I think, it is what it is. We like to see those battles. I can co-sign on LeBron. He's never, as far as I've been watching him, he's never really just started verbally the trash talk, but he's like me, and he'll give you a face that even if words are not being said, his whole face is saying something. His whole body language is saying something. So I don't know if I'll give him 100% pass because we do have that in common. But I think it's, it makes the game fun. It gives us something to, as fans, to look at and get mad at. And like I said, when there was the shimmy that Jamal did and when there was the bye-bye that Dame did, that is that the curse, so it gives us something fun to talk about. I'm good with it either way. I'm 100% with LeBron as long as it doesn't get disrespectful, as long as there's no slurs in there or you start talking about people's family. It's good. It's part of the game. You guys aren't friends at that moment. At that moment, you are in battle against each other. So I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's fun too. And I was going to echo what you said about LeBron. He's maybe not the one going out there like hurling insults at an opposing player, but we can definitely tell exactly what he's feeling right on his face. That's exactly what Rondo was saying yesterday with last season, and the younger players. Like, your face says everything, LeBron, so you don't even have to verbalize it. Britt, I know you typically love trash talk, so should LeBron and Jimmy have just left this whole exchange alone? Are you glad that they elaborated on it, or does it take away from kind of like the fun of that drama?
I always am like, just keep it on the court, you know? Like, why do we need to talk about like stuff after the fact? Especially like, obviously, like the social media stuff. I just saw or did a story later. You guys can check it out later today about Patrick Beverley, and he finally responded to the Cancun on 3 thing by just kind of laughing it off and stuff while it looked like he was making pasta. It's weird. Check out the video later. But yeah, I think it's like, I don't like that kind of stuff where it's like then taken to social media and it just seems like too petty. I know I used to be petty, but remember I told you guys I was delivered from my pettiness. So I'm not as petty as I used to be anymore. So that like social media trash talk, I don't like court stuff. I think it's weird, honestly, kind of when reporters ask about like the trash talk that happened on the court, like they're surprised that it's happened, or they're like, oh, why would you say something like that? They're playing basketball or they're playing football. Like, you're supposed to trash talk. Like, my favorite thing on NFL used to be when they used to do the mic'd up or whatever. And they'd have a player mic'd up and you could hear everything they were saying during the game and stuff like that. They do it a little bit now, but they don't do it like they used to before. But I love those kind of moments. I think it's fun. It's like entertaining. And like, as a fan, I like it. I think the players get more hyped up over situations like that. Some it can, like Kwame Brown, it can cause him to cry in the car when Michael Jordan says something to him at practice. But other than that, like most people, like literally, I think thrive off of it. Like Dame, I know, does when he gets trash talk when he's playing with Russell Westbrook. One of my favorite times to see him play is because he's heated, Russ is heated, and that's like they literally are at their best at that moment. So I always love moments like that because I think it pulls on most players the best out of them. Occasionally you'll have the crybaby players that, you know, can't handle it on the court kind of stuff. Again, like, I'm not talking about the social media stuff because some of that stuff, you shouldn't be saying, but like on the court stuff, like, I love it.
Yeah. When did you get delivered from petty? When did that happen? When did you get delivered from being petty? I don't remember that.
A couple months ago, like a month and a half ago. Yeah.
Does anybody in the trash remember this delivery? Because I don't remember. I don't remember you being delivered.
I said I've been.
Did you say it with your petty shirt on?
I wasn't going to respond on something, and I didn't respond the day. And since then, I have not been that petty anymore. So yeah, I'm proud of myself. Even on my social media, I don't clap back at fans anymore. It's all gone. All the clapbacks are gone. It's like a new Britt.
What'd you do with the petty shirt? Can I have it?
Dave asked me to do something on the show, like when we were talking about new ideas for the show. And he's like, oh, what if somebody came on the Fumble and Britt could roast them? And I was like, nope, I'm delivered from that. I don't do that no more.
I think I need to get on your level, Britt, because I find myself getting in like comment fights with people too often nowadays. I need to take a step back.
You know, it helped me. I deleted my Facebook completely. So I think that helped me because Facebook is so tempting because I can write as much as I want to write and go in. So I think when I did my Facebook, that helped me. Kevin,
so what happened?
Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
What happened to the petty shirt? If you're not going to use it, can me or Devin have the petty shirt? What happened to the petty shirt? You had a whole shirt.
Oh, I know. I had a shirt that said I'm pretty, but it had the R crossed out, so I'm petty. You know what? I will package that up and ship it off to one of y'all. Y'all got to do something for it. We need to have some kind of contest between y'all and whoever
a petty contest. I'm in.
Ooh, I like it. That was my pledge. That was a
I think Jackie's probably going to be winning whatever petty contest we get into, because even though I do have my little sassy streak in me, I think Jackie's got that is a better skill set for her. So I got time. Let's get into the second news update, you guys. This is about Devin Booker. So D-Book signed a 5-year, $158 million contract extension with the Suns before the start of the 2018-2019 season, but he recently sold his home in Phoenix, and people are wondering, of course, if that means he's trying to make a move away from the Sun. So the Suns, not the Sun. I mean,
well, I mean, it's not
Devin's
outside.
being petty. She's being petty.
Okay, so the mansion was sold for $3.45 million, and he pocketed a $200,000 profit. It sounds like a beautiful home. It's like modern with glass walls, a pool, open floor plan. I mean, it sounds like my dream home, but apparently it just wasn't doing the trick for him. And of course, like I mentioned, whenever an athlete does sell their home, people begin to wonder if it's a sign of what's to come in the future. So Twitter was on fire with theories about where he's going, what's going to happen. A lot of people somehow have friends who are realtors in Minnesota, and they say that Devin Booker is looking for a house over there, according to their realtor friend. Carl Anthony Towns is out. So the Timberwolves seem to be the favorites to land Devin Booker. There were, of course, all the photoshops of him in different jerseys, like, Oklahoma City Thunder, Heat. So there's all of this going on. Others claim that Devin has already purchased another home in Phoenix and he's not going anywhere. So, Britt, I want to ask you first, does Devin selling his home make you think he's ready to leave Phoenix? And is it a sign that he's finally listening to the analysts and all the advice that he's been getting, probably from the media, that he needs to go?
Well, we have done this on the Fumble for years and years now, and it has always been right. Tom Brady sold his home. We knew then that Tom Brady was going to be leaving. LeBron James buying a new home in LA. We knew he was coming up, and everybody at the time was like, oh, it's just a second house, or they're getting whatever, or Tom Brady's going to get a new home in New England, blah, blah. But it never happened, and they ended up leaving at that point. So I think he could very well be on his way out. I don't really have like any predictions off the top of my head, what I think would be the best for him, but I definitely think this is a sign that he's on his way out. Or like I said, when we had first saw this in our chat, maybe he's moving in with Kendall Jenner. So maybe he's going to be living with his new boo thing, and they're just going to be sharing a house together. I don't know. But this is always a sign, and it's always proven correct every time we've covered it. People are like, oh, just because he bought a house doesn't mean whatever, or just because he sold his house. But it's always ended up being right at the end. So we all need to become friends with some really good real estate agents and find out where these players are going, because we will have, that's the plug right there. That's the plug to know ahead of time, before ESPN, before anybody else. You'll know by whatever the realtors say, because it's always true. It's so funny. It's always right.
Yeah, I know. We should start making friends in every NBA city across the U.S. so we can know who's looking. Maybe not Sacramento. Well, I'm getting ready to take my test, but that's just for California, so I wouldn't know that.
That gives us all the information on these athletes and purchasing or leaving home. Good job, Devin.
I have realtor friends in Vegas, New York, and Denver. So if he's going to Vegas, New York, and Denver, I'll ask my realtor friend. Outside of that, the whole continental U.S., I have no information on.
I know. We need to make friends everywhere, which would be kind of hard. Jackie, okay, I want to hear from you. How do you feel about these Timberwolves rumors? I mean, that was definitely the most common tweet that I saw was about Devin Booker going to the Timberwolves.
I saw Kevin in the chat. He said that that's a drastic temperature drop. And my mind got stuck on that, because that is it's a little too cold for me. It's the main reason I never want to move back to Denver. And I'd be like, hell no, I cannot do that. But I mean, I think that Devin, like I said before, I think he would be an okay fit there. I actually never thought about OKC until you said it just now. And I actually could see that working as well. So, it's definitely, I definitely think he's on his way out. I'm with Britt on this. It's never, ever been wrong when somebody puts their house up for sale, because I think if it was a Kendall Jenner move, if they were going to cohabitate, we would see that. We would see something either like, oh, they're in Bed Bath & Beyond buying. We would see that in some way that they were getting ready to shack up. We're not seeing that, so I don't think that's what it is. But we can always check the MLS. Is that what it is? The MLS listings? Isn't that when you close escrow
Yeah.
your house? So even if we don't have a realtor in every state, we can get the nationwide MLS and just keep this on alert. But he's definitely out. I don't know where. I do like the OKC move better than the Timberwolves move, though.
Timberland.
Okay, Devin, I have a question for you because this is right up your alley of stuff. So Devin Booker, Kat, and D. Russ have been friends for a long time. All three of them are like BS, right? And they've all been talking about at some point they want to all play together. Say it's the Timberwolves, say they do all play together. Karl Anthony Towns is with Jordan Woods. D-Book is with Kendall. They aren't friends no more. So how are these vacations going to work out? Is it going to be a family affair again? Because she is not allowed to hang out with Jordan Woods anymore because of Chloe. What's happening?
That is
maybe they've been reformed. Maybe they've given up their petty. They've all forgiven each other. They're going to let bygones be bygones. Tristan's everybody's man. You can't still be mad about that. That's ridiculous.
I don't think that Kendall.
I mean, you go back to him knowing who he is, right? In a minute, he's gonna be with. He's for everybody. He's not as. He's for everybody.
Yeah.
He is the community guy. So stay calm.
Not down for that. I don't think Kendall and Jordan are ever going to even be in the same room. So that's going to cause some friction with the boys' friendships because I don't think that they're going to ever be able to vacation together or double date. I don't know. If it were, it's going to be tough. I had another question that I wanted to ask you guys now. Oh, Jackie, what I do want to ask you is, I think it was back in January, AD sold an LA home, and I think he does have multiple homes here in LA, but how do you feel about that? Because, he only signed that 1-year contract with the Lakers. So what are your thoughts on something like that?
I'm not ready to have the AD talk yet because we do see the relationship between he and LeBron, and that relationship has grown so much. So even from January till now, I think it's a different conversation. You know what I mean? I think that his feeling with LeBron and the team is different. So I'm not ready to have it just yet. I need to see if they win. If they win this series, which I fully anticipate them winning, then I can revisit. But I'm not ready to have that yet because it's a different time. As a team, the team has grown exponentially since January. The relationship between he and LeBron has grown exponentially since January. And I think that the teammates all around, Rajon, everybody, I think they're kind of firing on all cylinders right now. So I don't think that a January, him doing that in January, even though, like I said, Britt is usually right, but AD does have a bunch of houses. So I just have to see. I have to wait and see on that one because I don't know if it's the same conversation now as it was in January.
All right. Well, so it looks like the ladies are in agreement here that this selling of Devin Booker's home is a sign of what may come in the future. So if you're chiming in the chat, let us know what you think. Where do you think he'd be a good fit? Do you think the Timberwolves is a likely landing spot? Just sound off in the chat. And now let's get into the third and final need to know news story. So people are already coming out with predictions for the 2021 NBA title. I think it's way too early. The Lakers and the Clippers. I knew this would be the reason. I was like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. So Lakers and Clippers are the early favorites to win the 2021 NBA title. The Bucks and the Warriors come in at 3rd and 4th, respectively. So the Lakers, like we just talked about, are currently 2 games away from winning the title this year. And if that happens, LeBron and AD will likely be sticking around, like Jackie was saying. The Clippers will have a new coach. Kawhi may be staying. Paul George is expected to remain in LA, although I think we're talking a little bit about him later on in the show. But these predictions are just happening so early. We could see some huge changes happening between now and then that could change the outcome of everything. So Jackie, are these early predictions ridiculous? Tell me your thoughts.
Yes. This is the equivalent of a 16-year-old saying, I'm going to be a millionaire by 20. Like, what? Based on what? So it makes no sense to me because there's a lot of moving, especially when you're talking about the Clippers. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of relationships that need to be salvaged in that situation. You need to figure out who's staying, who's going, what coach is going to get in there? And if Doc Rivers couldn't command the ears of these players, who's going to get in there and do it now? There's a lot of moving pieces with that. You just talked about AD. Is he staying? Is he going? Is LeBron going to be 100% healthy? Because that's another, Father Time has racked up another year on him. There's too much to really consider. And on top of that, we still even haven't talked about the coronavirus. Adam Silver said very plainly on Sunday that he's not setting any timelines as to when the NBA is going to come back. The longer the NBA is extended out, the more problematic that becomes for players like LeBron. It's way too soon to be making these predictions. And so I have no dog in this race. Like, if they want to say Clippers and Lakers are favorite, that's fine, because that's what was favorited this year, but that didn't actually go that way. So it's definitely too soon for me to hop on this bandwagon right now.
Yeah, and then jumping off of that, Britt, the fact that the Heat are in the finals right now, people were not expecting them to be battling it out with the Lakers for this title. So does this prove that these early predictions are just pretty much completely pointless?
Yeah, I mean, and even looking more so at OKC, because they literally had no chance in heck. They were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, and they made it to the playoffs and played really well in the playoffs. So I think it's silly. We haven't even gotten through this season yet. Like, normally, yes, we would be in preseason right now for the upcoming season, but we're not. We're still in the NBA finals, and we have not only not finished this season, we haven't had a draft yet. We haven't had free agency start yet. We have no idea who's even going to be on a team next year. We don't even know. The coaches are going to be for like 6 teams right now. Like, what are we talking about? Like, this is crazy. There's so many, like Jackie said, moving pieces that have not been put in place, have not even been to be put in place. There hasn't even been allowed to be conversations between teams and players and this, that, and the third. We have no idea what next season is going to look like, or who's going to be on what team or what. Like, I think it's ludicrous and crazy. I don't know why. And it's not even a time where we're in the boredom time, because I know every summer everybody gets bored because there's no sports happening. So we want to make predictions. We're still in the NBA finals. The NFL season's going on. We're in the MLB playoffs. Dodgers played. So much stuff going on right now in sports. It doesn't make sense to even come up with these predictions or talk about them, because there's a lot of other things to be talking about. Like, we're not even in a season to even start with the rumor mills and all this kind of stuff. It's like ludicrous. It's crazy. Stop it.
Yep.
Say like,
agreed.
I know. I agree. And this is like when we were in between March and July, pretty much, when everything was shut down because of coronavirus. And it was like every day we had a new conversation. Kendrick Perkins lists his 5 top players of all time. Like, and it was always like, why are we, there's nothing else to talk about. So this is why we're doing it. But yeah, right now there is so much going on in the world of sports. That's such a good point, Britt. Like, we really don't need to have these lists come out, these early predictions, when we're not even done with this season yet.
Right.
Before we move on into what we're not going to do, I just looked at what some of the people were saying in our chat about Devin Booker and where he's going. We have some people saying Houston Rockets, Commander Star something says Timberwolves, obviously. Angel says Miami. So those are what the Warriors. Oh no, that was a different comment. Never mind. But anyway, that's what people are saying in the chat. So worth talking about.
Miami
we'll see what
makes
happens
sense
with Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Miami can make
Houston
sense.
doesn't make sense to me at all.
Houston doesn't make a lick of sense. That unless you're just from Houston and you like Devin Booker, and you're just like, yeah, this works. But if you really trying to build a team, that doesn't work. But the Miami one does. That makes sense. I can see that.
I did see quite a few tweets saying Lakers for sure. Jackie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Look, just because somebody is leaving a team does not automatically mean they come into LA. I can't believe this is where this ain't the landing spot for every damn body. No, he's not coming to LA. That's absolutely out. No.
All right, you heard it from Jackie, you guys. Well, on that note, let's wrap up Need to Know News. Jackie, take it away.
All right, you guys, it's your girl, Jackie Ray. We're going to get into what we're not going to do. I guess first up is say Devin Booker's going to come to LA. That's what we're not going to do. That's not going to happen. Let me turn LeBron around. He's all a little crooked there. But we've got a lot to get through today. So first up, let's talk about this, because Steve Ballmer, we know he spoke to some key players about letting go of Doc Rivers, and we know that no one really seemed to have advocated strongly for Doc Rivers. But it would seem as though those exit interviews that happened, that Paul George did not leave the best impression during his exit interview. So according to Jason McIntyre of Fox Sports Radio, he says a source inside the Clippers organization says that his teammates did not speak very highly of Paul George. I think we all can accept that that's probably factual because we know what happened between him and Trez on the court. They had a little bit of a blow up, especially with Trez saying that he wasn't taking responsibility. That was in game 2. And we know that Doc Rivers and other players had to kind of pull him out of his depression. And we know that him and Kawhi were basically missing in that win or go home game. And if Paul George kind of followed that same narrative and didn't take any responsibility for his lackluster performance, I can see players having an issue with that. So, but with that said, now it's like, oh, players are speaking negative about Paul George. Does that mean that we're shipping him off? So what we're not going to do is, even if we do ship him off, let's not say the logical landing place for him is the Brooklyn Nets, because I just cannot see that by any stretch of the imagination. But Jason does. So if we can roll that clip, he has a podcast where he spoke about that. So we can just listen to that really quickly.
And in exchange, the Clippers would get something along the lines of Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, some sort of second-round draft pick, because we know they don't have any firsts, or whatever to balance out the rest of the deal. I'm sure the Clippers would love to get Jared Allen, who had to take a backseat to DeAndre Jordan because DeAndre Jordan's friends with Kyrie.
So I think this is funny because if this is your first time on the Fumble, you do not know how badly we talk about Spencer. We've failed to say his name right. We call him Dimwitty all the time. So it's funny to me that he would be included in this narrative. I like the Karis LeVert idea because I think he's only been in the league for 3 years. And I think that he had that big standout game where he had the 34 points and 7 rebounds against the Wizards. But what we've seen from him is he's really good when he's the main option on the floor. Obviously, he would not be that in LA, but I do think he's young enough that you could make that make sense and, kind of cultivate him to where you want to go. But all that aside, as to where these people will fit or not, this would end up not being, it would be half a dozen on the one side, 6 on the other for me as far as the Clippers are concerned, because they're not going to get defensively anyone that's remotely close to Paul George. I don't care what rounds you give them. They're not going to get somebody that's like Paul George. On the flip side, the reason why I would love to see this is because I have not repented of my pettiness and the cluster, that's going to happen between Kyrie and KD, because Kyrie still hasn't accepted that he's Robin. He still wants to be Batman. KD knows he's Batman. And then you throw Paul George into that mix, that is going to be every other week some sort of imploding on the court, or some Paul George, or actually it'd probably Kyrie saying something that's passive aggressive and cryptic on social media. And then KD's going to use one of his burner accounts to respond back to it. And then Paul George is going to check out and he's going to say it's depression, but he's really just not checking for Kyrie or KD. It'll be a hot mess. I don't like this at all and I don't think it would work out for either team. I think it's going to be drama and messy for the Nets. And I don't think you're going to get value for who Paul George should be for the Clippers. But let's just talk about it. Britt, what do you think? Do you think that this trade, first of all, do you think is it too soon to say that it's possible that Paul George is going to be shipped off?
It's really, really hard because we don't have a coach yet. And so I don't know, because it depends on how that coach wants their team to look like. But I think if you're looking at I always, and you have said too, PG and Kawhi are both really good two-way players. They're good on defense, offense. There's a couple free agents that Trez is going to be a free agent. Marcus Morris is going to be a free agent. Those are 2 big ones. I think JaMychal Green might be 2, but those are 2 other defenders that we would be losing. So I wouldn't also Paul George possibly too. That just doesn't make sense to me. Right. And I don't think we would get anything for it from Brooklyn. That doesn't make sense to me at all. And I don't see them. I don't think Brooklyn can afford those 3 players and then still be able to have a couple other decent players
Decent
too.
team.
Like
Mhm.
if they do, they'll get no bench. They'll have no bench. Like they'll have like I don't know if that even makes sense, especially when you have two guys that are injury prone that are on your team. You actually do need a bench. You do need other guys that can step up. And you can't put all your money in Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Paul George. That I don't know. That just to me it doesn't make sense for Brooklyn. It doesn't make sense for the Clippers to, after just this season, like get rid of Paul George. When we gave up so much to get him. So it just doesn't make sense for us to do something like that. But again, I think it kind of is going to just depend on who we have as the head coach and what their idea and scheme and how they think that these players are going to be able to gel together. But his biggest critics are guys that are free agents anyway for Paul George. I think maybe Patrick Beverley probably said something too. Patrick Beverley's still going to be there, but I just can't see them keeping one of those guys and get Paul George, because as much as you want to hate or not, whatever, he was still effective on the court. He still averaged probably 22, 23 points, like 7 assists. This is just, I'm just guessing, but he still had a good season. Yes, the bubble kind of got to him more than it should have. But that was no reflection of who he was the whole entire season, so I don't think that's somebody that you just get rid of because they might have been depressed in the bubble, and who next year we're probably in the next situation, so how's he going to be then, and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's something worth like remove team for, because I just don't think there's anybody that you're going to get that's going to be equivalent to what you would get in Paul George, just him still staying there. So
yeah, and I agree with all of that. And I think, and I saw Kevin Pryor said the same thing, that they should hire Sam Cassell, and I know you've said that as well. But I think the benefit is in hiring a Sam Cassell is you had a front row view of whatever drama that was already happening with the Clippers. And so you would already kind of have an inside look as to how I need to combat that. Obviously, during this offseason, no matter how short or long it is, we need to do some team building. Paul George, if you really need continued therapy, not only do we have to get you involved in that, we have to figure out how we can help your mental state during the season as well. Sam has already got a bird's eye view of that. He's already has some insight as to what he could possibly change. I think he brings somebody from the outside in, and now you're talking about a guy who has to get to know everyone's personalities. He has to figure out how to make it work. And I just think that's a bigger hurdle to overcome when you haven't already been in there. So
by then it might be too late. So
exactly.
Sam being in there, definitely. I think both of them, or I think Paul George stays because he'll know everything out, and these are just little things we can blah blah get through. Even if I would say, I think Sam Cassell is my favorite choice, and the Clippers haven't really spoken to much of anybody yet, so I'm assuming they're kind of looking in that direction to get somebody that we already have. Because our coaching staff in general is pretty decent. So there's Ty Lue as a head coach, himself. Not that I would.
But he should not be a head coach again. Like that. That should never. I love you, Ty, I do. But let's just be real. That's not your forte, my guy. All right, so let me move on to this next one. This next one is going to be kind of quick, because what we not going to do is forget that for me, there's absolutely no Jordan versus LeBron debate. It's LeBron. There's a period at the end of that sentence. Kind of eyeballing the chat because I know it's coming. But there is a period at the end of that sentence for me. LeBron is the GOAT. But I understand that this is a narrative, Britt, Chris, and all of us have talked about, the GOAT comparison. And I've always said that if you ever see some goats, you probably don't see a goat by himself. They run together. So you can definitely have more than one goat. So whoever you think the goat is fine. But I do hate like making up a narrative where it shouldn't be. But I'm going to have to give credit to this CBS Sports writer, Bill Ritter, because this is a different level of comparison that I don't think I actually thought of before. And it's worth noting, I think. He said, quote, "If the Lakers win this series, giving LeBron James 4 rings, he will add another layer of depth and nuance to his finely tuned narrative that he is the game's greatest player ever. He will have led a third franchise all the way in a season that properly honors the late, great Kobe Bryant, all under the duress and difficulty of COVID-19 pandemic, a testament to LeBron's mental toughness, even in a bubble that bested other stars, i.e. Paul George. And we should have done, and he would have done it against his former team, selling the notion once and for all that the only consistent ingredient LeBron James needs for greatness is himself. I actually, and we've talked about that a lot on this show as well. I've said that whoever wins this finals, I feel like it's a little bit more than, say, any other finals, because these circumstances are mentally taxing and they're difficult. And we've seen several players talk about it. We've heard players talk about it's prison. We've again seen what's happening with Paul George. And then you add the social justice movement against it in the same thing. And then you had players conflicted. Should we stay and play, or should we go out and continue the fight? I think the mental strain from this series alone is something that we probably truly don't really understand as fans looking in, because we just wanted basketball, but we don't really understand the mental toughness that it takes to actually make this happen. And again, I said this before, it's kind of nostalgic to see, LeBron playing against the Heat, because we know he led that franchise to a title as well. So I think I'm going to give it to this. I don't like these type of let's create a comparison notion, but I actually really like this because it puts into perspective things that make this time so different. And then you add Kobe onto it, and they actually have a jersey to represent Kobe. And then every time they talk, it's like, we're doing it for Kobe, which has to add some mental stress too, because you don't want to fail because you're doing it for Kobe Bryant, who is the end all be all for this city. So Devin, what do you think? Do you think that this writer is correct in this specific series and winning this championship, if LeBron does it, that it adds another layer of greatness to his already well-documented legacy? I'm just going to say that.
Well, I'm 100% with you in the GOAT debate anyway, but yes, I do agree. And I think that before we went into the bubble, when they were still kind of formulating the plans, a lot of people were saying that whoever wins the title this year is going to have an asterisk next to their name, because people assume that the time off would make it easier. Like, oh, they have this rest time, they have this extra time to prepare. But in reality, I think we've seen it's the opposite. That bubble is a very mentally challenging place to be in. Although the NBA is doing everything they can to make it comfortable, they're still having to uproot their lives and completely, adopt a new lifestyle, all for basketball. So I think that winning this game with everything that you just mentioned, the pandemic, the bubble, Kobe, everything, going against his former team, I think it does add another layer of greatness to LeBron and his legacy. And so I would love to see it happen. I think that it's well-deserved. And then I think you could also even say it the other way too. Like, if the Heat end up taking home the title for this season, you could still say the same thing. Like, the circumstances were completely unusual. So like, maybe that's why there were issues or why things were faltering or whatever. So I'm with you 100%. I think that everything about this is unique and different, and it's historic for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this next one, I'm glad that it's kind of ladies day here, because I feel like Chris would just kind of be like looking around and have nothing to say on this next topic anyway. So we're going to tackle this one together. So if you don't know, Game 3 of the WNBA Finals is happening tonight. The Las Vegas Aces face the Seattle Storm. The Aces are down 0-2 in that series. But Aces player Elizabeth I already say her last name wrong. Camage had a time. She's having a tiff with a sports reporter from Las Vegas. I'm actually going to tread very, very lightly on this one, because I don't want to piss her off, because she clearly is like me and she got time. But this tweet is actually on her Twitter page. It is an interview in Playboy magazine, and in it they ask her about her sexuality, about being sexualized. It's a typical Playboy article. They go on and try to make her talk about all things sex, and then at the end they go, oh, by the way, you did some activism or whatever. Tell us. It's literally like an afterthought, but it's Playboy magazine, so I don't think that any of us would really be surprised at the fact that it kind of wanted to play up the sex part of the article. She was smart enough to kind of never really dive into, like, they even went so far to ask her what time, like, what does she find pleasurable? She definitely diverted from that and was like, oh, I find joy and happiness are pleasurable things. So she was smart enough to do that. And then at the end, they asked her about the fact that she is raising money for first responders. And she's also gone out and protest for the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, at this point, this is where Amber Dixon is a local reporter in Las Vegas. She covers the Aces all the time. She covers the Raiders as well. She had a commentary about the article. She didn't have a problem with Elizabeth using this platform to kind of talk about Black Lives Matter and the charity she does for first responders. She didn't have a problem with that. She seemed to have more of a problem with the fact that why is this even talked about in a Playboy article? So Elizabeth took umbrage to that, and she posted this exchange on her Twitter. It's a text message, and so Amber says, I don't have nearly the public influence you do. I'm sorry for my commentary, which you found offensive, and I'll be apologizing on air next weekend, sincerely. And then that apology just clearly doesn't resonate with Elizabeth, because she goes back onto her Twitter page, and then she posts that she wants Amber fired and that she will never give another interview to this local station if Amber is employed. So this is where I'm gonna tread lightly, because I think Elizabeth is out of pocket. And I think that the way that she's handling Amber is completely wrong, because, like I said, Playboy magazine, although it likes to present itself now because this is, what's socially acceptable, and you can't really come out on the other side of the Me Too movement and still be all about over sexualizing women. You can't do that. So they've done a really good job of presenting this marketing campaign that, hey, people really do read us for the articles, and that they are empowering women to embrace their sexuality. Okay, that's great. And I applaud your advertising campaign to paint you like that. But let's not get it twisted. Ain't nobody reading Playboy magazine for the damn articles. And I would argue that the people who do read Playboy magazine, I wouldn't consider them in their mindset maybe an ally, because I don't really think at that point my words are going to resonate with them, because they're not reading it for that. So for Amber to say, hey, okay, why are we even talking about this now? I get it, and I don't think she's wrong for that. And she not only apologized on her Twitter page, she actually posted an apology on her Twitter page, saying that she was sorry for, it was basically more an in-depth apology than the one that we just posted. And she's applauded her before. She actually posted something, I think last year, I think, Leo, if we have it, it's from last year. It's her Facebook post. And she kind of applauded Elizabeth for talking about mental illness. And so she's always kind of applauded Elizabeth. She's always been there for her. And she's always kind of, anything that Elizabeth has done, she's always been there. They have a disagreement on this. I don't think you call for her firing because of this. This is the apology that she issued on her page as well. So I'm just going to open it up to both Devin and Britt. I think Elizabeth is completely out of pocket here, especially calling for the firing of this woman. I think it's absolutely okay to have an opinion about a magazine like Playboy, and I think it's okay to voice that opinion. And I think it's okay for Elizabeth to feel some type of way about it. I don't feel like it's okay for her to call for Amber's firing. But Devin, I'll start with you. What do you think?
I'm with you on, I found that the calling for her firing was kind of extreme. I don't think that this needed to be such a hot button issue. There didn't need to be such a reaction to it. I think that Liz speaking out about social justice issues in Playboy is great. I mean, sure, maybe the main demographic for Playboy is not going to be reading that, but I think that any opportunity you have to enlighten anybody else, and I've said this before on the show, is great, and you should take advantage of it. So I don't personally have an issue with that, but if anyone, I don't know, I found this whole exchange to be kind of strange, and I think that Amber does not deserve to be fired for having a different opinion. I don't know. Britt, you talk about it. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think everyone should just mind their own business, I think Amber just maybe shouldn't have said something, and I don't think Liz needs to say something back. I don't get why any of it even happened in the first place. It's not her, yes, she can disagree, but what was your point in saying something about it? Are you trying to put me down in this moment? What ignited you to say something and brings bring it to light about whatever, or say something about whatever. So I get why Liz is just what are you, whatever, but I don't think she should say that she should get fired because of it. I think women almost we kind of hold each other to an unfair standard, to where it's just you have to be if I'm this, you have to be this too. If I feel this way, you have to feel this way too. And if you don't, that means you're against me. And I think that that's the problem we're not necessarily against each other. It's just like, I just have my own opinion, you know, like, and as you pointed out, she had posted stuff in the past where she was, you know, supporting her in this, that, and the third, just on this particular thing. It was a difference of opinion. And, you know, guys can be opinionated and say this, that, and the third all the time. And you don't see this kind of like, oh, well, this person must get fired because they don't like, they must hate women, or they must be against this, or they must this, that, and the third, or they don't let me express myself and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, it just shouldn't. I think it just was taken to a level that it shouldn't have been. And then I think it was a moment of, like Jackie says, sometimes she got time because Liz is not playing. She didn't play this season. She opted out this season. So she did not play the whole season. And now she probably does feel some type of way that her team is in the championship, even though that was expected. That was predicted. Her team was really good. So one of her teammates won the WNBA MVP award. So, like, I think she is probably sad that she's not in this moment, and she's just like sitting on social media and wanted to go back and forth. But if she would have been in the bubble right now, I don't think any of this would have happened. I don't think she would have even saw anything, or they would have had any kind of whatever, because she has bigger things to worry about. But right now, she's not in the bubble. I think it was just taken to a different level because she got time right now.
Yeah, and that was one of the comments in Twitter. Not so much that specific point, but a lot of the people in Twitter were like, you know, how are we supposed to respect you getting all mad about this, but you're getting paid to sit out? And then, you know what I mean? So fans were conflicted as well. And I think the overall consensus was, when you are in this position, when you do have this level of star power and you throw a Playboy, you know, article on your Twitter, you should expect people to have an opinion about that. Not every opinion is going to go with you. You know what I mean? It's just not. So I thought this was just extra on Elizabeth's part, but like you said, Britt, it's probably because she's just sitting at home, you know, watching her team that's losing right now, and she just got time. But I definitely didn't think that Amber did anything wrong, and I was just really disappointed in Elizabeth. But that's all I got for What We Not Gon Do. I don't know if you want this beatbox. Do you want Devin to beatbox, or do you want me to beatbox, or you just want to go into Britt's tape? You gonna do it?
I've already decided. I'm doing it. Yeah.
Okay, Devin. All right, Devin. Here we go. It is time for Britt's takes.
Britt's takes.
Oh, that wasn't bad, Devin.
Okay.
That was all right.
Chris is going to come back ready to do it. I'll be like, no, sorry, Devin's doing it today.
Right.
Speaking of some fans who probably cried yesterday because they paid a lot of money to go to a game that they didn't get to finish watching. So last night, the Chiefs and Patriots played each other. We had 2 games last night because of COVID. That game got pushed back because of Cam Newton's positive test. But there were some fans in the stands that were wearing anti-Goodell shirts. They were basically a shirt, it had Goodell on it, and they just dressed up like a clown. So it was a clown shirt of Goodell. And some of them had different other things on their shirts, but they were all anti-Roger Goodell shirts. We all remember last year, Sean Payton actually had a similar one, the Saints head coach, because he wore that shirt after that non-PI call that cost them the NFC Championship game and made them not go to the Super Bowl. But yeah, it was a shirt like that, very similar to this shirt that Sean Payton had worn. Well, if you look at this video that Leo is going to throw up for you guys right now, the fans were not allowed to stay in the game because of the shirts. Here is security literally arresting the fans and kicking them off the game. So you can kind of see the shirt. The guy in the blue had one on, and there's like another guy. So they basically were Roger Goodell clown shirts, right? And they were getting thrown out of the game, as shown here. Originally, the Chiefs said that those fans were not kicked out of the game, but then we had this video pop up, which showed that actually, yes, they were kicked out of the game. Apparently it was not for the shirt. So a Chiefs representative told TMZ that I can confirm the ejection had nothing to do with the shirt the fan was wearing. The team actually didn't end up giving any specifics about, why were the fans tossed out? They only said that they violated the team's fan code of conduct and it had nothing to do with the shirt. When originally they actually released a statement saying that the fans that wore anti-Goodell shirts were not kicked out of the game at all. But then once this video was released, then they switched back and said, well, yes, they were ejected, but they weren't ejected for the shirts. Stop
Right.
it. Okay, you guys are lying through your teeth. We're talking about the same stadium that just a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago to be exact, opened the regular season with a moment of silence between them and the Texans, and there were a bunch of fans booing, yelling like negative things, this, that, and the third. Stop. You guys kicked out those. That stadium is like, you can do the craziest stuff there and not get kicked out. Trust me, I went to the AFC Championship game against the Titans in Kansas City last year. I know the wildness that happens at that stadium, and it was literally below 0 degrees there. It's warm now. I'm sure they're having a good time and enjoying themselves, and you did not kick those fans out because they did something like booing or did something like there was no fight. There was no fight that happened, or you guys would have said there was a fight, or there would have been a video of a fight. There was nothing like that. The conduct, the team's fan code of conduct you're talking about is because they had Roger Goodell t-shirts on. Like, this is so ridiculous. Barstool Sports actually ended up posting the video, and they called they said Goodell is Hitler was what their caption was on the video. The president of Barstool had posted it to his 1.8 million followers, I believe. And we know, Barstool has spoken out several times about getting kicked out of NFL games because of, doing Roger Goodell shirts or doing this, that, and the third. Maybe that guy worked for Barstool too, who knows? But yeah, he called Goodell Hitler and basically said that he's doing this whole thing, and just because it's Roger Goodell that people can get kicked out, but then people can do any crazy old other thing. They could wear racist stuff and do this, that, and the third and still be in the stands. But if you wear a clown shirt of Roger Goodell, you get kicked out of the game. I don't really have like a specific question for this. I thought it was kind of crazy. I just want to take a poll. I want to ask you guys in the comments, do you think that he was kicked out because of his shirt or because of some other reason? I got to ask you ladies too. What do you think of this? Jackie, like,
I have a question. I have a question.
A Roger Goodell kick out?
I think so, but I have a question. Are these guys specifically Barstool affiliates? Because I know that their Barstool sells these shirts. I just looked at it. They sell these. That's the only place you can get it, the clown shirt. So are they employees of Barstool? Because if they are, I could see one just get them out, because I'm not a fan of those Barstool.
The president of Barstool didn't say that they were, like, nobody said that they worked for Barstool. Barstool just reposted the video and said that it just said Goodell is Hitler is what it said on it. And then reposted that video. So I don't know. I mean, in Barstool Sports, their headquarters is actually in New York. So I doubt that it was
probably,
employees from Barstool, but who knows? You should never say anybody is Hitler, because Hitler is one of the most terrible people in the world, and nobody is at like that level of just what Hitler did, because it's disgusting. I don't think Goodell is even close to being a Hitler at all. So that reference, I think, was like horrible to even say and silly to even say. But like, they definitely, my beef here is with Kansas City just kicking these people out just because they have a shirt on, but then they can literally boo the players and throw stuff at the players and not get kicked out of the game for that kind of stuff. Like, the double standard here is like my issue, because y'all were so quick just for a t-shirt to take those people out, but then not for the fans who booed in the moment of silence and who is in the past and consistently thrown stuff at fans and this, or players and this, that, and the third. Devin, what are your thoughts on it?
I think that I'm with you guys. It seems like they were likely kicked out because of the shirts, which I think is sort of ridiculous. But I also wanted to just call out a chat that I saw here. Somebody said this sounds like a setup to make the shirts go viral, like as if Barstool planted people wearing those shirts to draw attention to it.
I like that.
Yeah, and that coupled with that controversial headline of Goodell being Hitler. I mean, it could be that. I'm not saying that it is that, but that was written in there by Nerd Soul. And I think that that's a valid point to make. But yeah, I think it seems like the shirt
Yeah,
was the reason they got kicked out, which is dumb.
I think the funniest thing about the whole thing is like Roger Goodell knows that he's hated and he doesn't give a damn. I don't know if you remember during the draft, there was a moment where people weren't booing and he kind of looked at the to the side, which I'm assuming is the production person. He goes, "Where's the booze?" Like he was like, "I'm not gonna get started until I hear the booze. People boo me. Where are my booze?" You know, like he's totally fine with the hate. So he would probably see the
beginning of the NFL draft. He gets booed every time he walks onto the stage. Like he knows that.
Yeah. And he was not gonna start that draft without the booze. So he probably would have saw the shirt and been like, "Oh, okay, new shirt, cool." Like he doesn't care.
Why are the Kansas City Chiefs like security people so worried about the clown shirts if Roger Goodell himself isn't worried about it? Like just Kansas City, y'all were doing too much in a moment where y'all should have just sat down, you know? And then it was this big old thing. You guys saw how crazy it was to try to arrest the guy and like they're all like dragging him up the stairs. Like stop it.
Right.
I think they're bored, honestly, because they don't have a lot of fans in the stands right now because of COVID, and they're probably bored. They're probably just bored, and they're like, "Oh, there's somebody we can go arrest."
It's not a bad thought, a theory.
Right. That is it for my take today, y'all. I needed to know your guys' opinion on that one because I was just like, really arresting these guys? Stop it. But the Barstool,
ridiculous.
That actually is probably facts because Barstool knows what they're doing with their stuff. They're very smart in that aspect. So they were definitely trying to go viral with that moment.
Yeah, it does seem like it. It's so far it's working. Look, we're talking about it. People are posting about it. All right, you guys. Well, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell for notifications. Give this video a thumbs up. Chris, I think, is going to be back with us tomorrow. So we'll have the full Fumble squad with you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.